In Texas, a county's chief executive officer has the unique title of judge, and the three candidates that are vying for the support of Van Zandt County voters are here in the bunker because it's that time again. Time for some straight talk. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, and this is the Bunker Bob Show. Welcome to the 8th of 10 Republican candidate forums being held in the bunker. And if you live in Van Zandt County, you're going to come away from this with a great sense of where each candidate who wants to be your county judge stands. For those new to the state of Texas, the term county judge is a confusing one for sure. And while they officially reside over the county commissioner's court, no judgments are ever made when court's in session, but the decisions made there impact every citizen who lives inside the county. This is why the race for county judge commands so much attention. Now, I want to give each candidate the opportunity to put their best foot forward, which is why, as I have always done, the candidates received a copy of the questions before they had to decide to participate. Through the magic of video, we create the illusion that both candidates are in studio at the same time. However, each candidate sat down with me for a one-on-one interview, which is edited together to create the illusion that they're here at the same time. This is why I will ask follow-up questions of one candidate but not the other, and why the candidates do not respond to one another's answers. In fact, the first time any of the candidates will have heard the answers from their opponents will be after this show has been broadcast. Now, I never place time limits on candidates' answers. However, when they go long, and sometimes they do, we will edit it for time. Before every interview, I let the candidate know that they can answer or restate anything they say because the purpose of today's show is for them to be the best that they can be. So, let me introduce the candidates for today's show, and I want to start with Andy Reese, who has lived in Van Zandt County for the last 22 years. He works at Winning Strategies Marketing as operations director, responsible for facilities, financial management, information technology, and human resources. He is involved in the local community, serving in the Canton Lions Club, Canton Chamber of Commerce, and Precinct Watch Patrol. Prior to moving to Van Zandt County, he lived in Dallas working at companies involved in industrial distribution, manufacturing, and technology. Andy is a graduate of the greatest university in the nation, that of course is Texas A&M, and is married to Lori, and they have a son, Harry, residing in Martinsville area, south of Canton. Andy, it is great to have you here.
It's great to be here.
All right.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce B.W. Ferris. B.W. is a veteran of the U.S. Navy, where he served our country honorably for 6 years. After the military, B.W. became a businessman and has run a successful nonprofit wildlife refuge for the last 26 years. He and his wife, who is a 10-year Air Force veteran, have 13 children and 16 grandchildren. Thank you for being on the show. And finally, let me introduce Mrs. Judy Bell. Judy earned a bachelor's degree from SMU in political science, where she spent 16 years in city management and 3 years as a city council member and mayor. She also spent 20 years as a municipal consultant and business owner and 7 as a legal secretary. She and her husband of 49 years have lived in Crandall for 36. They have 3 adult children and 12 grandchildren. It's great to have you on the show today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, Judy, I'm going to start the first question with you. And the first question is, why are you running for Van Zandt County Judge?
Why am I running?
Yeah.
Well, I love public service. I think it's not everybody is designed to be a public servant, and I believe that's one of my gifts from the Lord. As we all have seen America changing over the last couple of years, things that we've never seen before, probably never anticipated seeing in America. So I've felt God's prompting over the last couple of years. Didn't start out with wanting to run for office. It started out with, how do I prepare my kids and grandchildren for what is to come? I never thought, I didn't live in a world with persecution and restricted freedoms and all of that. So
But why county judge?
Well, mainly because the experience that I have, other than the judicial responsibilities, are much similar to what I've done in the past. And I want to be qualified for whatever position I might hold. And I do believe I'm qualified for this position.
Very good. Well, Andy?
Well, in 2018, Don Kirkpatrick won re-election as county judge, and he made it clear he was not going to seek a third term. And that put the wheels in motion, where I was thinking about, be an open seat, and be running. And then 2 years later, the Lord guided me in several of the things that I questioned him. I asked God, is this what I'm supposed to do? And he made it clear. He made it clear in a lot of things that he showed me and the places I've gone, and the support I was getting. And so I decided I was going to run. And I announced in June of last year, and I've hit the trail ever since.
You know, it's funny. I don't know if you've ever read the Call by Os Guinness, but he focuses on what calling is, and calling isn't something that you know you like something, you enjoy doing something. Calling is you're kind of dragged in kicking and screaming. That every man in the Bible, everyone in the Bible who God has called, they have not wanted to do what God's called them to do. So this is kind of is that kind of the situation?
That's exactly it. It was a book that I read from Mark Batterson called Chase the Lion. And the subtitle of the book is, If Your Dreams Don't Scare You, They're Too Small. And I just, there were so many things in there, and I said, this is a challenge. God wants to challenge me, and I can do this because of all the experience that I have in business, the experience I have working in the community and the community people that I knew. And I just felt like he's preparing me all along for this role. And so, and then he threw in the addition of having challengers or having opponents at the end, and that's a challenge that I accept. So,
well, you know, the old saying is, "There's only two ways to run: that's unopposed and scared." Right. So, but you've got some good challengers, and I know that you're friends with them. So this is a very positive race all around, regardless. Yes. Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right. Well, thank you very much. BW?
Well, when I was 18, I was at TJC, and I was studying criminal justice. And this is prior Navy, and was always interested in public service. And I always felt like I needed to wait till I was a little bit older, had a little bit of experience under me, and then I would seek that out. So I did it that way. I retired in September, and that seemed like a good opportunity to enter public service.
I see.
I really want to make a difference, and I think there's no better place to start than your own backyard.
And so what is it about county judge that makes you want to be the next one?
Well, a county judge basically is an executive director, and I've been an executive director for 21 years, and then 5 years in director of development during the succession plan with the nonprofit organization that I founded. I took that organization from a $2,000 budget in its first year to about a $4 to $5 million annual budget.
Wow.
I've raised over $53 million for that.
Wow.
And in that process, we also have a lot of education that we worked with, autism, special needs. I have a couple of children that are on the spectrum, if you will. And I feel like there's the indigent care. There's some of the interest in trying to help our citizens get services that they need. I've certainly served on a few boards, so it's one of those things that seems to kind of be in my wheelhouse, if you will. So,
very good. The next question is, do you have a faith, and if so, what is it, and how will it or does it guide you if elected? BW?
Well, I'm a Christian, and I've been a member of the Baptist Church, First Baptist Church. Let's see, I joined that church almost right out of the military. I'm going to kind of reminisce here for a moment. It's back to 1993.
Okay.
And I actually did spend about 2 years with the Old Order Amish, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
I had a fascination as a child growing up with big cats, birds, and draft horses. And so I got a chance I met an Amishman. We used to build a friendship and started working. At that time, I was painting homes and things and had a paint company, and learned how to work and manage those animals. So.
Okay, and how do you think your faith is going to kind of guide you as you lead the county of Van Zandt?
Well, I always go back to the founding of that, the scripture, and really, it's just trying to treat people with respect and dignity, and follow God's word and Jesus' words.
Very good, Andy.
Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and everything that I do is to honor and glorify Him. I accepted Him as my Savior when I was 7 years old at a Good News Bible Club, and ever since I have sought to seek and honor and glorify Him. I'm a member of Lakeside Baptist Church in Canton. Been there for 20 years, and I serve in the audio and video ministry in that regard, and lots of other service that I do. But I intend to fully honor Him, and when He said go, I go. And that's why I'm running. So,
very good, very good. Judy, how about you?
Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. And I was brought up, thank the good Lord, in a home where we believed in Christ and we were diligently seeking Him. I had wonderful parents. My dad was a good example of my father in heaven.
You are fortunate.
I am fortunate.
Yeah.
I really am.
Yeah.
And of course, the older we get, the more we know that. I hope my children can say that.
I'm sure they can.
I just want to be able to help people protect what we have, our freedoms, our liberties. I know that He will equip me for whatever He calls me to do. And I do know He's called me to enter this race. I know that maybe all three of us feel that way. But He hasn't told me that He's called me. That's what He's told me He's called me to do, is to enter the race. So I'm entering it, and I'm going at it as if I will succeed.
Very good. Thank you. The next question is, if elected, do you see yourself as a representative or trustee of the people? Now, a representative will act in ways that he or she believes those who elected them would want them to act, while a trustee acts in ways that they believe are in the best interest of the people, even if those who elected them oppose such actions, like shutting down businesses and places of worship during a pandemic. Let's start with you this time, Andy.
Well, thank you, Bob. Sometimes you're going to be both, and it depends on the situation. But I believe in individuals' freedom and their rights and their liberty to make their own decisions. And I don't believe that as a county judge, it should be imposing on them in that regard. But there are situations, like in disasters of some kind. We've had tornadoes and things
Yes,
like
you
that,
have, yeah.
where that they need to be given direction. And sometimes it's not a pleasant direction. If you set curfews, that's another thing. Is to protect the citizens is the reason you do that. People in our county are amazing. I was involved in the tornadoes and helping people there. And they're absolutely amazing, and they take care of themselves. I want to work with the people in the county and let them come to the conclusions that would need to be.
That's interesting. During when the tornadoes hit, did you have a lot of people from outside of the county coming in and I guess trying to take advantage of the situation, we'll just say?
No, we did not have. We had people coming in trying to help.
Wow.
It was amazing that it came from all over the country. The only negative thing we had looters.
Well, that's what I mean. People trying to take advantage, yeah.
And what happened was, through the Precinct Watch program, the Highway Patrol, a lot of the law enforcement just set up with a flashing light and sat all night with flashing lights on, and just to make their presence known. And the looting was almost eliminated pretty much.
Excellent. Wow. Glad you guys got through that. That's a tough time. BW, how would you answer that?
Well, that's an interesting question, Bob.
Okay.
As a trustee, this is a little bit of both, and I'll elaborate on this a little bit. As a trustee, you've got certain government functions you have to do. And these are the things in the parameter inside the sandbox, if you will. And you have to take care of those things fiduciarily. That's a role you have to take on and exercise good stewardship. So you're looking at things like road and bridge, conducting commissioner court, dealing with indigent care issues, any of the court issues that might come before you. Even driving economic development would fall into that. Now, on the representative side, you have to go back to, quite simply, we're not really a true democracy.
Right.
We're
We're a representative.
we're a republic.
Democratic republic.
Yes,
Yeah.
a Republic of Texas.
Yeah.
And so you have to go back to the Bill of Rights. You know, it's not authoritarian. You always go back to that doctrine. And if it doesn't meet that measure of standard, then it doesn't take place.
Very good. Judy, how would you answer that?
Well, a representative is chosen, right? He's chosen to act on behalf of someone. And a trustee is actually given the power. So I always want to represent people. If I'm elected, I do work for them. I don't work for myself. But I do think that there are times when difficult decisions have to be made. Citizens don't always know every intricate detail in some instances. That's not their fault. That's just the way it is. And
How could they? That's why they've elected you sometime, right?
Exactly. So, so I think that there has to be a little bit of a mix of both. But I'll just pray that I can satisfy the most and make the best decisions for the county.
Very good. Thank you. When is it okay to enact countywide restrictions against private businesses or houses of worship? BW?
It's not. It's not okay.
Okay.
It's not in the Bill of Rights. In fact, it's counter to the Bill of Rights.
So you don't ever foresee any time or instance where shutting down businesses in Van Zandt County or houses of worship is allowable, permissible, or right?
We need to build business. We need to build churches. We need to facilitate nonprofit organizations to come to our county and do God's work. No, I don't foresee any of that.
Very good. Judy?
Well, I can't say that I ever think that there's a reason to do that. I don't. Our Constitution provides for us certain freedoms, and our freedom of worship is one of them. And I think that very action was the catapults to sending me where I am now. When I had to stay home from church, watched it online, but that's not the same. No. It is not. So I don't see that as ever being something that I would want to do. I would feel comfortable doing. I would resist it. Our Constitution doesn't necessarily talk about free enterprise, in that when it comes to our liberties, but it goes hand in hand. If you have a family and you are, you're protecting them, you've got to provide for them. And so I believe that encroaching on someone's business, someone's work environment goes hand in hand with those freedoms.
Very good. Andy?
I don't believe it's ever okay to enact restrictions because it's the private businesses and the houses of worship that are going to help you out through the situation. They're the ones that have the most influence and the most contact with the public, and they're going to help you if you need something. I would instead go to them and ask for their assistance. If there's something that needs to be done, I say, okay, what would you recommend, or if this is what I'm thinking about doing, how would you react to that? I would get their input long before I would try to impose something.
Very good. You know, I have a simple fundamental philosophy that the role of government is to do the most good for the most people at the least cost. Where government cannot meet that standard, government should not act. What is your philosophy about the role of county government, or when would you say the county government services and responsibilities are essential, and when is it superfluous or unnecessary? Judy, how about you?
Wow, that's a big question.
Yeah.
You know, county government is not supposed to be an intrusive government, in my opinion. There are minimum things that a county provides. Protection, you know, from our sheriff's department, constables. We have, you know, very basic road work, all of those things. Very basic needs for us to live a comfortable life. We see government overreach all the time.
Yes.
And the more we see it and the more we allow it to happen, the more we're losing in this country. So I think that a county needs to maintain its role. I do think in a growing county that there are, you know, the safety protection of our citizens, the you know, just the essential needs. We need to ante up, you know, and get that stuff in good condition. But I don't see other things. Anything else beyond that is either an overreach, or it could be the wants of a few people. That's really not the government's place.
Perfect. Great answer.
Thank you.
BW?
That is real interesting, Bob. It seems to me that you go. I mean, it's almost with the previous question. You go back to the basics, and that's what we need to be focused on. You know, people and services, and I just don't see that. It's not going to be one of those things that it's cut and dry. But at the same time, you've got to have the balance, and you've got to keep that in perspective. And I think one of the top priorities is just protection of the people. You know, you have to protect them, and you have to serve them.
So fundamentally, you look at protecting, you're talking about law enforcement.
Well, facilitating first responders. It's not just law enforcement. You're not just dealing with the sheriff. You're dealing with the fire departments. You're dealing with the EMTs. When someone's having a heart attack or they've been in an accident, they need services right away if they've got a fire in their home. And so it's not just the services of that show up and stabilization of that individual or those people, but also being able to respond and get them to the next level of care. And in our case right now, that's 42 miles.
Wow.
That's not good. We how many people do we lose with heart attacks and strokes that could have been prevented if we got them there sooner? So, you know, obviously there's some needs where we need a hospital. We need a hospital in Van Zandt County. You know, our veterans, we've got 5,000 veterans. They're underserved. And being a veteran myself, my wife being a veteran, we've got to take care of our veterans.
But how does the county do that? Isn't that a responsibility of the federal government?
Well, no, the states have certain rights and obligations too.
But as county judge, what would you do?
Well, as county judge, you can facilitate these things. You can endorse them. You can bring this kind of infrastructure into the county. These nonprofits, these churches. You can work closely with the representatives in the state of Texas to try to entice them and convince them and make deals and get these people in there that can help bring this to fruition.
Very good. Andy?
I believe in the free market enterprise system.
That's a novel idea.
I believe that is the most efficient form of business. And the competition that you have makes people competitive and makes them do the lowest cost and the best service. Okay, the government is there to primarily keep you safe and to perform services that don't normally occur through the private enterprise system. And those services are needed on a county level because you're dealing directly with the people that live in your area, that work there, and you're helping them out. And so the county, I don't think there's any superfluous businesses or superfluous. Did I say that right?
Yeah. So when are the services and responsibilities? You're saying that right now there's nothing that the county government's doing is over the top, that they shouldn't be doing.
Not what I've seen. Yeah. Okay. You could question, does the county really need to maintain a library? Okay, but you go look into what the social benefit is and how it helps people, because for a lot of people, that's their only place to get internet service, and they rely on that to go there. So when you live in a rural county, there's some things that you provide that don't normally need to be provided to help the citizens out.
Very good. Define the word conservative in a county with continued growth where government services must expand. Judy, how would you define conservative?
Well, conservative to me is someone who may be adverse to change, and that's not me necessarily. I think we should consider our options. Change may not be the best one, but it's still an option. But I do strongly believe in and support free enterprise. I believe that we have rights as citizens to own our property, to have the things that we work hard to achieve. And I value those traditions, those fundamental rights and the traditions of a Christian country, and I want to help preserve that. Now, in a growing county, I don't know. My conservative beliefs are going to remain the same, regardless of the county growth.
Very good. Andy?
Well, conservative to me is giving a hand up and not a hand out.
Okay.
Okay, so the things that we do are to help the citizens. When we've got growth, what I would do or think should be done as a conservative is to make sure that your services and expenses to maintain the government do not exceed the growth rate. In fact, should be lower. There should be efficiencies achieved with more people coming in without having to spend a lot more money. And that is only through going through the processes, the operations, and figure out how to do that, which a businessman is used to doing. Okay, and that's what I intend to do, is to go through the processes, see how can we make this more streamlined, how we can make it better, how can we serve our citizens better.
Very good. BW?
Well, I mean, conservative, conservationist, preservationist, it all comes down to the same gut. How do you define conservatism? It's making the best use of your resources. If you're setting in nonprofits and churches and facilitating them to do some of this, it lightens the load. If you catch that autistic child at an early age, we have no ABA therapy and no autistic services in Van Zandt County. If we had that service, maybe that young person would grow up and have more life skills, be able to be more involved, hold a job, whatever. These things take off of the government, the burden of the government. The problem is it takes planning and strategic planning at that. And we're going to have growth, and there's nothing wrong with growth. And what's important is that we get in front of it and not behind it, and actually have some say in the direction of that growth. So, when you start talking about nonprofit organizations and expanding their services, you start talking about churches and facilitating them and allowing them to do good work of the Lord. Those things take the burden off of society and the government as a whole.
You mentioned autism as an example, and that is when you look at the population of Van Zandt, a very, 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 very small percentage of, it impacts a very small percentage of citizens. And so when I talk about government's role being doing the most good for the most people at the least cost, well, are you saying that the county of Van Zandt needs to play a role in helping a very small percentage of the people?
Isn't that what the government's about, Bob?
I don't think. I mean, I think that the purpose of government is to do the most good for the most people at the least cost.
But they also represent the minority of the population, not the majority often. In the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, as a Republic of Texas, a Republic of the United States, they represent the minority. You have to look into
the
that.
Bill of Rights protects the rights of all, including minorities. Yes.
And so what I'm referencing there, and it's easy to take out of context.
Right.
But I'm using autism as just an example.
But I think it's a good example because there's a small percentage of the population.
It's 1 in 44, about 320 in the county. But
and what's the population of Van Zandt now?
It's around 57, 58,000.
So
we're approaching 60.
You would agree it's an infinitesimally small.
It is, but then you have to get into other disabilities, and you start looking at other disabilities and how they weigh in. Autism's just one area, but there's other.
But is that really? But is government really the best place to do that? Because
I didn't say government. I said facilitate nonprofits to allow them to do that.
That's where the misunderstanding is, and so I wanted to clarify that before we moved forward. So when you talk about these situations, you're not saying that you want the county to do that. You're saying that you want the county to facilitate nonprofits to come in that doesn't bear on taxpayers. And that actually does probably a much better job than government ever could.
Absolutely, a better job at it, and that is back to that key word to facilitate, to allow something to take place, and without that, you got a quandrum, and then it does become a burden to the government when that person's sitting before a court and they're not able to take care of themselves. They've lived with their guardian or parent, and then the parent passed away. Of natural causes perhaps, and then you have an adult person there that's not at full capacity.
They can't take care of
themselves.
Right, yeah.
And that becomes a government issue. So how do you spearhead these things off? And that is exactly where it's at. I mean, it's just like the poverty issue. You've got an issue there, and you say, well, poverty, that's not the government's problem. Well, it is in a way, because it's a burden on the government. If those people are able to take care of themselves and hold jobs and have good paying jobs or learn skills and trades that are vital, then not only are they providing a service to the county as being employable, but they're no longer a burden on society. And that frees up the nonprofits there again to do even better or deeper work than what they're doing when they're on the initial surface of it.
Yeah, I'm glad I clarified that. So very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Do you support government funding or tax abatement incentives for private ventures like local restaurants, stores, technology companies, or even professional stadiums? And if so, what limits would you put in place to ensure that government is not picking winners and losers? BW?
I'm glad you asked that, because I was going to initially I was sitting there thinking, and I thought, well, we don't need to be picking winners and losers. The reality of that is, do I believe in it? I don't think that that's a priority for government. But if the court decided that they wanted to bring in a manufacturing company and offer incentives like that, then you've got to have some kickbacks or clawback clauses. Because what's happened, there's been a couple of cases of this where a county may have done something that created an economic development zone, perhaps an industrial park, for example, which is something I would be supportive of, but not of us doing it. Maybe facilitating it, again, the magic word. But in doing so, I would want to make sure that there's some clawbacks, because what happens is they can sell off after 5 years of abatements to a municipality, and then municipalities are exempt from paying those taxes. So you lose the benefit. Other than the employment level, you would lose the benefit. So you've got to make sure that you're having some kind of clause there that would protect that tax advantage so that you don't lose that.
Very good. Judy, what do you think about that?
Well, I do not believe in any form or fashion in putting the cost of development on the taxpayer's back. That is, I've had developers, because I've worked with many of them, say to me, well, your citizens are going to realize, all of these.
All the benefits.
Yes.
Yeah.
and I, we're every time we get a development, and believe me, I believe in development. I believe in
Sure.
having, the conveniences and so forth. But the citizen doesn't realize that. They may realize there are new job opportunities. That's wonderful. They may realize, a few things like that, but the taxes, that business is going to impose the same level of needs, if not more, than what the citizens impose on the, county or city. And that's what their tax dollars are for, is to help cover those costs. If the county saw the ability to incentivize bringing jobs in, maybe there's something there. I'm saying I can probably see where some things we need to encourage, but never tax breaks, never ever asking citizens to put in infrastructure or anything else that's associated with that development. That is their project, and that is their obligation.
Great answer. Now, Andy, what's interesting is Winning Strategies actually got some business incentives when it was started.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yes, it was the city of Canton actually purchased the building, and they actually did some finish out work for us in exchange for a guaranteed number of jobs. And we fulfilled those numbers.
More than fulfilled that,
yes,
I would
we
say,
did.
yeah.
it was a big benefit. We've been in business for 22 years now, and it's been quiet. But I do not support tax abatements. I do support economic development with performance requirements, and that way that the money that may be used from taxpayer money may be used is guaranteed to get a return to the taxpayers with the performance requirements.
How do you guarantee that?
With the number of jobs and the amount of business that they're bringing in, or in that regard.
So measurable,
right,
quantifiable,
or even with the physical assets that they bring in that are now on the tax rolls that may not have been on there before. Whether it's a manufacturing or distribution, you've got those the inventories and the manufacturing equipment that is now being taxed, and that's raising the revenue for the county.
Very good. Well, I've saved the most important question for last, which is, what is your vision for Van Zandt County? And as you share your vision, include what changes, services, programs you'll be advocating for if elected. Andy?
I really believe that we need to come up with a 5-year plan on what needs to be done, what we need to address, the immediate needs of the county, and we need to come up with a 40-year plan. We have some...
a 4-year or
40.
40.
40.
Very good. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
A long-term plan
Gotcha.
on where we're going, especially in regard to our facilities and our infrastructure. Because we have issues with our courthouse right now with the maintenance and modifications of it. And we have issues with our jail, which is built in 92 and is way behind in technology and efficiency. And there needs to become we need to come up with a plan on what we're going to do to address that with the growth. The Van Zandt County has had a steady growth over the last 10 years of like 2 to 5%. It's going much faster now, much faster with all the subdivisions that are coming in and the new housing developments. And so we need to prepare for that by having a long-term plan on how we're going to address it. And that's the main thing that I see that I can help in the best job that I can do for the county, is so that we don't, and you're aware of counties that didn't plan for the growth and they're trying to catch up. Trying to catch up, and that's what we don't want to do.
Yeah. Is the courthouse a historic building?
Yes, it is.
Oh, boy.
It was built in 1937. In fact,
wow.
The jail we have, which was built in 1992, the jail previously was in the fourth floor of the courthouse.
Wow.
And that's where we kept everybody up through the early 90s. And then the Jails Commission came out and said, you need to put a fire escape up for the inmates. And the historical commission said,
how does that work exactly?
Yes. And the historical commission said, no, you can't put a fire escape on because it's a historical building.
Wow.
So we're at an impasse, and we were forced to build a jail in a relatively quick time. Again, there wasn't long-term planning done, and so we built it quickly, and it's maintained us so far, but it's not going to keep maintaining us in the future.
So the updating that courthouse and jail, do you see or foresee a bond election or something? Or
I do.
Yeah.
And the whole way it'll be done is, again, through the planning process, what I want to do is commission a study, an outside company to come out and go over the demographics and the projections of the needs for the county for the next 40 years. Okay. And then with that study, then commission a committee within the county that would be composed of elected officials, and it was private citizens, of businesses, and other entities in the county that will sit down together and help work out a master plan. This is what we need to do. And then with that, then we would get the cost and the figures on what it would do to build a justice center, they call them now. And we would still maintain the courthouse, and that would have to be addressed too, because it needs to be renovated, and the cost of that.
No, it's not cheap.
It's
not a historical building.
right,
Very
right.
expensive. Yeah. Okay. Well, very good. Judy?
Well, our county, we have a county rich in history. It's just, it's a extremely conservative county.
Yes.
It is pretty laid back, and I love living there.
Yeah. It's a beautiful area.
It is. Yeah. It is. Many of us call it God's country. So.
Oh, sure. I understand why.
But we've fallen behind in a lot of areas. That's not unusual, is it? Life has kind of rocked along, and the county's been the same for a lot of years. And I know that because of my family history there. But right now, our sheriff's department is in dire need of digital radio communication. We have very, very poor communication abilities all the way across the county. We've had deputies who have had to get on their cell phone and call 911 because they couldn't get anybody with their radio. And so that is not acceptable. I want our deputies to be safe as well as I want our citizens to be safe. So radio communication is maybe my number one thing. Along with that, though, is we tend to be a training ground for deputies. Our pay rate is not up equivalent to other surrounding areas and agencies. And so we in Van Zandt County spend our tax dollars training deputies, getting them up to speed. And once that happens, they find another higher paying job, which they should, I guess.
Yeah.
But we're wasting so many tax dollars and so much energy of our personnel. So I think we need to evaluate, all of that and get our deputies, our jailers also up to par. And that may be countywide as far as pay. I'm sure it is. I doubt that one would be lower paid than the other. But that needs to be evaluated. In order to be safe, we have to have seasoned, mature deputies and jailers and so forth. You're not safe. There's nothing wrong with somebody that's just learning. But if you always just have the rookie and you never have someone who has the experience under their belt, then that's not a safe environment.
It doesn't mean that you don't have veteran officers on the force. You do. It's just you want to see a lot. You want to see them stay around a lot longer.
We do,
Yeah.
and a lot of those are in investigative positions, different things The deputies out on the street are the ones that, we really need to work with. And
Have you thought about what kind of proposal you might put forth as far as that's going is concerned, or do you need to study the issue more?
well, I do need to study it more, but I do think that I think there needs to be, a study across the board for all of the salaries, but getting comparative department sizes and so forth, and what their pay is, and even comparable to the county, the size of other counties and so forth. But being close to the Metroplex, and actually when I was in Crandall, we had this exact same problem. As one was trained, they could go just a little further in, closer to Dallas, and get more money. So now we're battling that in Van Zandt County. So I think we can make those changes, and probably not as much money as we think. If we're saving on one side of the coin, we can do the other. But I also think we need to do some real strategic planning.
Okay.
In my opinion, our political atmosphere, our economic atmosphere, our supply chain, all of those things are pretty unstable. And so I would like to spend a good long while studying what our current facilities and assets are, figuring out what the really needs are, not our wants, but what our needs are. Is our courthouse a good environment to work in? Environment meaning the aesthetics, is there mold, is there whatever. And I'm just throwing that out there. I don't mean that there is mold. But so evaluating our needs, and just making sure that the county actually will be completely out of debt in a couple of months, thanks to the current county judge. He's worked very hard to do that. So I don't want us to jump back into debt. I want us to methodically go through a look at everything, and then evaluate what we need and how we can get that in a very conservative way.
Do you foresee a bond election?
I hope not.
Okay.
I hope not. That's all I'll say.
All right, very good. BW?
Well, to start with, I wanted to help bring in the special needs nonprofit organizations. And they would be able to facilitate and handle not just the autism spectrum, but any of the special needs, anybody disabled. I'd like to improve our veteran services. I would like to see us attract a VA hospital. And honestly, hopefully that would bring a regular hospital in as well. Often it does. So I would be advocating for that. I would be advocating to build nonprofit structure, build our churches, facilitate our churches. And when I say build, I don't mean physically going out there and building it, but allowing it to happen. And then I would be, one initiative that I'm really interested in seeing is an economic development alliance that works with the EDCs and area businesses that can serve that board of directors. And I would be advocating for that. I put together an executive summary for that, for that economic development alliance and that EDA.
Where can you find that?
I have it, and I'll be releasing it off of my website at bwferris.com.
Very good. Well, I hope that this has been helpful for you to get a better idea of where the candidates stand on some tough issues. And I want to give each one of them the opportunity to speak directly to you about why they are the best choice for your vote come this election. So with that, Judy, take it away.
Okay. Well, I will work hard. I'm a hard worker. I love the Lord. He's given me a lot of energy. He's given me a passion for serving others, and I'm most happy when I do that. I want to improve the safety environment of our county. There's no disrespect to anyone when I say that. It is strictly that our times are changing and we need to make sure we stay up with the technology and so forth. I will resist unnecessary mandates. The government's getting too comfortable passing on not just mandates that we have to fund, but mandates such as the mask and the vaccine and so forth, taking our freedoms, our choices away from us. I will strategically look at our needs, try to do the best I can with the Commissioner's Court to get us to a little better place in the future, in the near future, than we are right now. I want to keep our tax base, keep our tax rates as low as possible. We all have our own obligations, responsibilities that we have to meet, and the taxes should not prohibit us from being able to do that. And I want to help protect our conservative values and standards that we have in Van Zandt County. We have children coming up in our neighborhoods that need to have those same standards for them as they grow up.
Andy?
I love Van Zandt County. I've lived here 20 years now, and I have been able to meet a lot of the people, and they're just amazing. It's amazing, especially during the tornadoes, and to see them when they're down and when they rebuild. And it's amazing. And I've had lots of community service where I've worked in Lions Club and a chamber and whatnot, and I've just gotten to know a lot of the community, and I'm thankful to be there, and I desire to serve them just like I serve the Lord Jesus Christ. I want to serve them and help make the community a better place to live.
BW, talk to voters.
All right. Well, a conservative base, business background, military veteran, 26 years nonprofit, 21 years as an executive director. I've been to Austin. I've lobbied against the lobbyists. I've gone down there and testified against them. We've won cases. I've worked with the state legislature. I've worked with federal levels of legislature. So it's not a learning curve for me. I've been down there roaming the halls and dealing with those issues in those sessions. I know how to do it. And I'm very well versed in creating business, economic development. I am structured and disciplined. And that is some of the reasons why I would make a great county judge.
Well, I want to thank all three candidates for their willingness to talk straight with me for your benefit. Regardless of which candidate has earned your vote today, I hope that you will take time to thank them for getting in the arena. If you have more questions of them or wish to know more about their campaigns, I've posted links to their websites in the description of today's show. If you found this show informative and helpful, please hit the like button or smash the rumble key. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to this channel so that you can stay up to date on the forefront of conservative politics in and around Texas. Remember that you're watching this because you want to be an informed voter, so be sure to share the link to this program with your friends and neighbors who can vote in Van Zandt County. And don't forget that early voting begins on Monday, February 14th through Friday, February 25th, and Election Day is Tuesday, March 1st. It was Thomas Jefferson who said that when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. We are a country of the people, by the people, and for the people, and the only way for us to keep it that way is for you to get out and vote for conservatives who will uphold and protect our liberty. Until next time, I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, looking forward to seeing you at the polls. Blessings.